had the good fortune to study writing at Barnard College with Elizabeth Hardwick, a great woman of letters. And when she died last December, I was invited by Tin House magazine to write a remembrance of her. I handed it in, and several hours later in my house, I remember walking around and feeling very pleased and content in a way that I didn't usually when I finished pieces. And it wasn't just that I was happy to have done the piece, but that I enjoyed remembering myself at that time, and I enjoyed remembering a moment in my life before I was sort of had a lot of direction, and it made me feel good to remember that period. And I wondered if other writers had written about their mentors in the same way. And I sat at the computer that night, and I came up with a title for the book, which I very soon decided I wanted to call Mentors, Muses, and Monsters, because I wanted writers to remember not just the people who had a positive influence, but in case there was somebody who'd had like a wicked stepmother who might have inspired them to be a writer. I sort of wanted to include all kinds of experiences that writers have. And within 2 or 3 days, I had 3 or 4 very prominent writers who were interested in this. And within a few weeks, I had 20 writers who were interested. What a mentor does when he or she sort of anoints you and says you have talent and this is what you should be doing with it, what that person does is he or she gives you direction, he gives you an identity, he gives you purpose, and it's a very profound experience, and it doesn't happen to everyone. The essays themselves were incredible. The essays were much more wonderful than I had expected them to be. I mean, I knew they would be good, but I really had no idea how much heart and soul and work every writer would put into the essays that they wrote. I think because the subject meant so much to them. I learned a lot from reading these essays. One of them was how important serendipity is to writers. There were several writers who said, if I hadn't read this novel the day I read it, I wouldn't have become a writer. If I hadn't heard this writer read his poetry the day I did, I don't think I'd have become a writer. What the essays in this book show us is that there are an infinite number of ways to become a writer. You don't have to do it when you're a kid. You don't have to decide to do it when you're 6. You can decide to do it when you're 50. You can have all kinds of influences and experiences that lead you in the direction of becoming a writer. There's no one prescription for how to become a writer, and I think that's what the essays really show again and again.